I'm gonna start by saying I didn't know this was the April Fool's update. This is quite the tone setter for for this video. Considering this video was supposed to be serious as fuck and sad, so we're gonna talk about a great anime, an absolutely phenomenal anime known as Your Lie in April. For those of you who don't know, it is the 1st of April, one of the most prestigious times of the year, as we all know. Ooh, my son. Ooh. Ew, why does that feel so stiff? Probably my favorite time of the year, aside from the fact that getting pranked kind of sucks. I haven't played Overwatch in a while, so don't mind me. However, we're just going to go to practice range and talk about Your Lie in April, because I just watched it for the first time, and I've had to record this like 12 times, because recording and talking is not easy, I will say, and... There we go. We're just going to do that.
Firing range activated.
So... Oh, this takes way more focus than I thought. I haven't played Overwatch in a while, so this is probably going to be a very stillful video while I just practice like combos and shit. So, Your Lie in April. Now, before I continue with anything, I do want to say that this is massive spoiler warnings. This show has been out for a while. However, if you haven't seen it, I will recommend it like always.
This'll tickle their feet.
Oh, I was wondering why. And so there's your warning. So a little context before this show is about a musician who loses his musician's way, and that's literally it in a nutshell. He's in love with this girl that loves his best friend, which is another, just in a nutshell, type of, you know, in a nutshell. This is just a long story short, right? That's the basic plot of this. He's in love with the girl, but he doesn't know it. He hates music because of his past, or he despises the music. He doesn't want to play the music because of what happened in his past. So he kind of just rejects the music. Now, a little context for those of you who don't know, I used to be a musician. I've actually posted, I think I posted like one video of me playing music a long time ago when I was still like really terrible. How did I miss that? So to me, this really struck a chord. And yeah, so there's basic premise, there's some context. Now, onto the plot. Excuse me, do you have Google? Oh. So, episode 1 is very simplistic. You get introduced to the characters, who they are, and a little bit of their background, and we get introduced to our protagonists. Now, I'm not going to say their names, mostly because I'm terrible with names, and I also don't want to butcher them. For that reason, like, Coyote is like the main one I know, along with, yeah. So I actually have a list of the characters right next to me. So if you guys see me stop like this, that's why. Now you might be thinking, well, if this anime was so good, why don't you remember the characters' names? And that's because I was too busy crying. Now, I was crying for the entire show for the most part, as proof on the gram, or yeah, the gram, and the fact that, oh, okay. And the fact that, you know, I posted on the YouTube community channel. So we get introduced to the characters. We get introduced to Coyote, Arima, Tsubasa, and Watari. Now, I know I butchered Miyazano. Miyazano is Suave's best friend, or like her really close girly friend. She's like a Gyaru, I guess. Like I said, a lot of the names are going to be butchered, just strictly because I was like too busy crying, and it was genuinely that sad. So the anime, we get to there, and we get to meet Coyote. I think it's like within the first episode, because apparently she's in love with Watari. Watari is like this playboy. So mind you, this all takes place in the Watari has a bunch of girls under his belt that really like him, but he's again just a playboy. He just wants to fuck around and I guess fuck around and find out. I mean, he's still young, so we'll give him that. Arima is I don't know why I Mexicanfied that. Arima is a pianist, one of the greatest of his age group, or one of the former greatest. After he put down music for an unknown reason that we will discover later on in the show. Coyote, like I said, is just she's like one of the. These are all the protagonists. So these are like all your main characters and stuff like that.
Satellitean accuracy.
Major pack unlocked.
Oh my god, I suck. And so,
Wait.
all right, let's turn that to
Everyone
50,
stand very still.
Quadruple.
Don't tell him.
And so, we made all of them. Coyote is a violinist, as we learn, and Suave drags her. Hold on, I'm hoping I'm not getting these characters wrong. Yeah, Suave. Okay, is dragging him to this concert because she doesn't want to be like alone because she wants to go like on a date with Watari. And so they go along as like kind of like a double date, and we find out that, like I said, Kaori is a musician. She's a violinist who kind of plays to her own tune. She doesn't play the way the music is supposed to. She plays it the way she interprets it completely, which we find out in the show is completely taboo. Now we find out that later on in the show we find out, like very soon, we find out that she loses her accompanist. Yeah, that's what they're called, accompanist. Which she asked Arima to be her accompanist, and he says no because he just can't play music. He genuinely cannot hear his own notes, which, if you don't know, as a musician, is kind of detrimental. You hearing your own notes is such an important, and such an important key part of being able to play music. Without your notes, you're kind of just stuck. It's just rhythms, no emotion, no time. And he was like known as a prodigy. So for him to disappear and just, you know, there's so much that like I just can't talk about because I'm gonna forget. And it's like you have to watch it on your own to understand any of this. Like, there's so much I'm gonna miss, and that you need to watch. Like, even if you have it, it's tradition to rewatch the show every April, and I will be committing in that tradition. I will rewatch it every fucking April. It is just that good. And it hurts. Like, I genuinely still want to cry thinking about it, thinking about the ending. And so we find out about Arima's past, and I'm gonna be honest, I resonated with it because, you know, growing up as a musician, a trombonist, mind you, something completely different. I played so many different instruments, but trombone was always my passion. I fell in love with trombone. First off, when Coyote brought him back to actually want to play music for his own reasons, you know, I resonated with that because in band, at some point in band, I genuinely didn't want to quit, and, you know, it's not a friend, but someone who we'll call the band director kind of guided me back into loving music and finding that tune that I just felt like I was losing. I genuinely wanted to quit and give up on the at the time like 5-6 years I had already put in because I was struggling so much and I just couldn't find like the passion. And so he had lost that passion. He had lost that feeling because of his lack of his ability to hear music, which sucked. It hurt to see him like that. And so Coyote just gets him back into it. And we find out that he just can't hear music. And we learn that most of that is because his mother. He had such a bad relationship with his mother, and he felt like after she died, it was like a huge
Everyone
punishment.
stand very still.
Double kill.
Tired of me yet?
And that hurt because, you know, again, it's so hard to explain because like it's such raw emotion, right? It sounds like I'm being silly. However, when like even down to like when his mother came to his final her final concert before she passes away, you know, he was looking forward to her being there, but she was just critiquing him and she beat him, and I felt that because like I think you guys don't know, and I don't blame my grandparents anymore now that I'm adult. I just assume they have their own reasons. They never went to any of my high school stuff. They went to my six middle school concerts. Middle school's 3 years here in the U.S. They went to my six middle school concerts, and that was it. They went to all of my siblings' concerts, minus my older sister, the older sister, who was in high school with me. Now, I did jazz band, I did marching band, and I did concert band. I did a lot, and I was very actively playing, just because I genuinely loved playing in band. Band was one of my passions, and I kind of lost it because of them, and because they never came to anything towards my senior year. So I nearly dropped it, and they never came to anything but like, I guess one, and that's because I genuinely had to force them, which sounds horrible. Don't get me wrong.
Everyone stand very still.
Quadruple kill.
And around we
And
go.
it just hit because it was like you expect something great to come from this beloved parental figure being there to support you, but it just ends up in disappointment. And I felt that at such like a genuine deep level that that's why like the first picture of me crying comes from, is when he's reminiscing and remembering his mom for his last memory of her being there and just watching from the stands, and then we find out that it's such a bad memory for him because afterwards she just beats the fuck out of him with her cane, and he just wishes her death, and shortly after she passes away. Um, and again, that just hit me. I would never wish death against my grandparents. Granted, I love them very much. However, at the time, I think it might have been how I genuinely felt, just inside, deep inside, because I felt like everything I did was for their approval, much like how, or for their approval and for their praise, much how like Arima did. You know, he seeked for his mother's praise. He wanted her to feel better. He assumed that his music would make her better because in her words it made her feel a little better every time he got first place. So he just tried so hard for her. And again, I did that exact same thing. So I saw myself in the character, and I felt it. I felt like I was a part, like he was a part of me. Like, this is symbolism. And so that happened, and throughout the show, we learn more and more about him. And you know, the more we find out about his mother, the more you find out that she wasn't just a hateful, bashful woman who wanted to degrade him at every turn of his career, or of his, I guess, yeah, his pianist career. It was she genuinely loved him. She wanted him to succeed, but she could only do so much, and she pushed him so hard, so fast, because she just wanted him to be the best he could be before she disappeared, so he could make the most of this pianist career. So he wouldn't end up a failure, and it was just so touching because finding out that throughout the show, I felt like he grew up hating music because he was so forced to play it, and just to find out that he actually loved music very much, and he did it just for his mother, and then finding out that his mother was so hateful, but she really wasn't. Like, it hurt. It hurt to hear because he shouldn't have had to gone through all that. I feel like I don't know. I genuinely don't know what to feel other than sadness for him. I felt genuine sorrow. And then we get to Sayuri, and she, you know, right before their big duet, she collapses, or she's a no-show, and they're playing like this really big piece, like that his mom played. This is where we learn that his mom, you know, loved this. Oh, what's the piece called? It was Love, Sorrow, something like that. Yeah, loves sorrow, which was a piece his mother absolutely adored to play when he was a kid, and played it around him. And I think that's what got him into playing piano. And so he just solos it because some kid is bad mouthing his partner Sayori, and so he does absolutely phenomenal. He breaks his own walls, but before that, he goes through the adversity of he can't hear his notes. He starts off fine, nearly robotic, and then he can't hear his notes. And so what he does is he plays and he plays. He's smashing and he's doing horrible. He's an absolute fucking mess. And then he remembers what he was taught. He just plays strictly from the heart for his mother because it was his mother's song, and he absolutely adored it. And it reminded him of the good times of her, not the bad ones. And then he realized that his mother did love him, and she just wanted the absolute best for him. Then we find out about Sayuri, and we find out she has muscle infantry. Infantry. I called it muscle dystrophy because that's what I genuinely thought it was. Is muscle infantry. And but I give up. I give up. In fact, I gave up so much I had to put down the controller. Now, so we find out, and we don't. We find out she collapses, and this is the second time in the show that she's collapsed after their first performance, for their first duet, which ended up horribly, by the way. So they continue, and she's in the hospital, and she keeps lying to them, saying that she's gonna be out soon. She's gonna be out soon. She's gonna be all right. Hold up. Genuinely just hit, and I am starting to tear up. And then we go into the show, and he keeps playing piano for her, and he plays with his rivals. Oh, we meet his rivals, and his rivals are very disappointed in him. But that they're not part of what made me sad. Right? I'm giving my genuine thoughts. They were great rivals, and they pushed him to be even better in the end. Like they really did. They pushed him to be the very best he could be. Oh my God, no! And so we find out what Sayori has because she tells him, and only him, and later on the others find out. And so he starts playing for her because he finds out that she just can't play for herself. She can no longer play violin. She lost her musical ability. And so he starts playing for her, and we find out that he genuinely loves her. He's in love with her, but didn't know what the feeling of love really was. And then he plays his final performance in her name so he can get to the school he wants to. And she goes to get surgery done for her muscle infantry so she can play with him once again. And as we find out later, it was her childhood dream to just play with him. And she doesn't because right after the surgery, she passes away. And if that wasn't already a knife in the gut, that, you know, that already hurts. Death genuinely in anime hurts so much for whatever reason. Like, I guess it's because you put so much emotional time into this show, and for me, I genuinely did a straight 8 hour watch. I watched it or not even straight. I watched it from 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. to 4:50 a.m. and I turned it off. Went to take a nap. Woke up at 10 and finished it. And you know, she dies and she leaves a note. And I'm sure we've all heard the famous Sayori note, which, you know, the one lie, and how about she loved or loved Watari, or she liked Watari. Turns out that we find out at the very end. This is what like absolutely destroyed me. Was we find out that she loved Arima, and to me that was like it felt obvious. I thought she just liked him. Like that was why she was pushing him so much. I thought she just couldn't figure out who, or like she was like such a good friend because she wanted to seem. We find out she genuinely loved him, and she says it so many times in the note, and it hurts. It hurt to hear it, And then she gives him a picture of when they were like itty bitty, and oh my god, that genuinely just had me in tears. And hearing the intro from like the first early episodes, just in my mind, this entire show was she was gonna hurt him, but it was the other way around. She still did hurt him, but it wasn't in the way that I expected. I expected that she lied to him about liking him, but she never told him until after she was gone. This anime was genuinely so sad, and I'm not sure if you can hear it, but I'm like choking up. Again, I just finished watching it, and it was absolutely fucking phenomenal, and I would watch it again and again, even if it hurt, even though it hurts as much as it does. Like, I don't think I've ever, I mean, aside from like Attack on Titan, I don't think I've ever cried that much to an anime that was that short. There's animes that have definitely made me cry. Attack on Titan's a great one that regularly makes me cry, like once once a fucking year that I watch it, and I was about to finish it, but April 1st hit, and I decided to start this, and Cyberpunk's made me cry. Agame ga Kill has made me cry. All these sad animes, but none of them hit as hard as this one because it wasn't just me getting attached to the characters. It was the fact that I had invested myself into Arima, and I found myself in these characters that it hit so much harder because there was so much that I could just relate to, and when you find that connection, it's so easy to just connect yourself to that character and become that character in your own mind, which made it hurt so much more when she said that she loved him, because I could feel the stab in my heart. I didn't expect her to die, and when you see her on his final performance of the show, fading away with the flowers, it just hurts. And with that, that is my shitty little review on Your Lie in April. I'm gonna end the video and I'm gonna go lay down and just think about this just a little bit longer because
Hold this a minute.
it hurts. It genuinely hurts my soul that
Bon voyage.
this is how it ended. It's a month for me that April is I don't know why I always make April such a sad month. I guess because of Your Lie in April. I watch every single sad anime I physically can.
Can
You know.
everyone stand very still?
I just watch as much as I can so I can just
Then
remember what it's like, I guess. I don't know. Romance is my favorite genre for those of you who don't know, and it always makes me feel like a different type of person. I love romance, and for those of you who don't know, one of my favorite animes is Over the Moon for You. And I love this genre, and I love sad stuff, but this one touched me in a way that not many anime have ever touched me before. It hurt. And it's gonna keep hurting. It's gonna linger with me. Because that's kind of the purpose of it. And yeah, I cried, but I'm not disappointed in myself for crying. I feel great that I cried. I mean, I'm sad. But with that, I love you guys so much, and you guys should watch Your Lie in April if you haven't seen it, because I've done such a shitty job of talking about this show and like what it actually is, because it is a genuine fucking masterpiece.
my fuses are alive.
Goodbye, my beloveds.
The
Y'all
pleasure
have
is mine.
a phenomenal day.
Hang up.
I hope you guys have a great April, and I'll see y'all on the flip side. Goodbye, my lovelies.